Hall Forum. For those I haven't had the pleasure of making your acquaintance yet, my name is Ron Taylor, and I'm your Superintendent of Schools. It is 6:01. We'll just give one more minute for anyone who may be having a little bit of tech trouble joining us. Good evening. We will begin in 30 seconds. All right, I see our attendee numbers jumping. That is fantastic. Thank you again for joining us. This is our School and Safety and Security Town Hall Forum. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda for this evening. A brief welcome and an update from your superintendent. And also, we're going to hear from some of our experts on the topics of safety and security. We're also going to take time to answer the questions that were submitted prior to this town hall. And then we'll close out. Next slide, please. Here are your panelists. I am Dr. Taylor, your Superintendent of Schools. We have Director Valles, who has joined us on July 1st and hit the ground running. We have Dr. Gilbert, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Access and Equity. We have Principal Frank Sanchez of Columbia High School. We have Chief of Police for Maplewood, Jim Duvall. And the Chief of Police for South Orange, Ernesto Morillo. Welcome and thank you, gentlemen, for giving us your time. Next slide, please. Next slide. So we are gathered today with a goal to create an opportunity here for our SOMSD school community to hear from folks in your district and folks who represent our township's safety and security leaders. We're going to talk about this very important topic and begin with updates from both of our chiefs. And then we'll go into some work that we have been doing behind the scenes around culture and climate of our schools. We'll then go into an update around the safety and security for Columbia High School. And then we'll talk about school drills and the collaborations that we have. Next slide, please. I will now give the floor to the first of our two chiefs of police, Chief Duvall.
Good evening, everybody, and I just want to say thank you to all the panelists and attendees for being a part of this. This is a very important update for the community and the school community. I welcome everybody back to school. I know we've had a wonderful summer, and the summer is over very quickly. I want to thank Dr. Taylor for the invitation. I look forward to working with the district in a collaborative manner. I look forward to working with the new security specialist, Stan, and I would just want to thank everybody for being part of this.
Thank you, Chief. And now to Chief Morillo.
Good evening, everyone. And again, I'd like to echo the sentiments of Chief DeVaul. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be on this panel. Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and the members of your staff. Welcome to the new Safety and Security Director, Stan Valles, who is being entrusted with the safety of our kids. I have a lot of confidence in him, had a few opportunities to sit down and speak with him one-on-one. And just looking forward to any type of dialogue that we can have that will help improve the overall environment for our students in our community in the Maplewood and South Orange Board of Education community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chiefs. And for those who may not be aware, right, we talk all the time. We have a very strong partnership with our police partners. We have, no clock outs. We talk weekends, evenings, whenever it is required to make sure that we have a strong partnership to keep everyone safe and everyone on the same page. So thank you for your partnership, Chiefs. Next slide, please. We will now shift to our Assistant Superintendent for Access and Equity, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor, and thank the other panelists who have joined us today. And so I'm going to briefly talk to you all tonight about our preventive care. If you want to look at the importance of strong school cultures and climates, it is how we're on an everyday basis trying to build our schools up to be that mechanism that can prevent some of the things sometimes that occur when we talk about safety and security. You can go to the next slide. I want you to think about strong school cultures and climate as that first line of creating these safe learning environments for our students and staff. And so we're taking an approach this year that we think is going to really help strengthen that. First, at Maplewood Middle School, South Orange Middle School, and Columbia High School, they are part of the New Jersey Sky Project, which is a school culture and climate surveying project in partnership with Rutgers. We basically do surveys and we take that information, and those principals and their assistant principals and their staff are going to be using that data to kind of help drive and move school culture and climate within their school in an equitable manner, but in a manner that's going to kind of help build those schools up. But we're not leaving out our elementary schools and our pre-K center. Montrose and our elementary schools are also creating these school culture and climate plans, and they're actually grounding those in strong school culture, those strong school culture and climates in a culturally responsive and sustaining education. So we have a plan for them, and then they tie their plans to that to help build school cultures and climate. You can go to the next slide, please. So what you see before you, and I see the print is really kind of small there, but this is what the data looks like. So after we do our survey data, our schools get this data, and then we look at these particular numbers. There are a few areas that really, I think, as we're talking about safety and security, that are very important. For example, the third item from the bottom says negative school interpersonal behaviors. We know that we really want to work on making sure that our young people interact with one another in a manner that allows them not only to take care of themselves, but to take care of one another. If you go down to the last one on this page, it's a sense of physical safety. You will find that we have some really good numbers when it comes to the students who feel like a sense of physical safety, but we do know we have work to do, and schools are gonna choose some of those to kind of help build those up. You can go to the next slide, please. And then here are three other areas that are very important, like supportive staff and student relationships. We know that having and building that relationship with between our young people and our staff are important, especially when you talk about how students feeling comfortable to talk to adults, especially when they see some things that aren't right? And so that staff relationship is very vitally important. We actually, as a district, in these three schools, had a 2.93 in that, which means we're on our way to actually creating that kind of school culture and climate where our staff and our students feel connected. And then we talk about the social emotional learning supports that we have, and do our students feel like they belong? Now, I know you can't really see this because it's tiny, but listen, if you go to our website and you go to the access and equity page, All of this data is available for you to look at. And I challenge you to go on and look at some of this data and see some of the great work that we're doing here in the district and the data that's driving us to move these school cultures and climates. Next slide, please. And our elementary schools have created a culturally responsive and sustaining education definition. And the words that I want you to know that are important to building strong school cultural and climates are the continual acknowledgement, appreciation, and incorporation of student identities and lived experiences. We really want our young people to really start getting to honor and value one another, and in order to help build that sense of community that's necessary to keep and ground us in a safe learning environment. And we want to make sure that we know that throughout our daily instruction, interpersonal interactions at schools, lesson objectives, curricular content, classroom activities, and assessment, through all of that, our commitment to this goal empowers our students as agents of social change and contributes to their overall learning growth and achievement. And so our elementary schools are using this definition to guide their action plans towards building strong school cultures and climates. Next slide, please. And I just want to briefly show you the document that our school principals are using. In this, they set a goal. They have definite data targets that they want to look at, and then they have to put action plans in that we're going to be checking periodically. This is important that this document is living and breathing throughout the school year as we're keeping this at the forefront of what we're trying to do, and we will monitor it as a system. But most importantly, our school leaders are using this based on the data, based on that definition, to put in plans that are going to build these strong school cultures and climates. And so we believe that this is, like I said, the front line for us to really put in some measures that's going to really keep us safe and secure in our schools. And I believe at this time, I am turning this over to the principal of Columbia High School, Mr. Frank Sanchez.
Hey, Dr. Gilbert and Principal Sanchez, we're going to just pause for one moment. Mr. Bonds is saying he's having a YouTube issue. We are recording this, and we're going to post this recording to YouTube, but we're also trying to do a live stream. So Mr. Bonds is going to pause. He's going to stop sharing and give me the ability to share, and then we'll pick up with Principal Sanchez. All right, I'm going to start sharing now. Pretty seamless here with the technology. Okay,
it's coming up.
Coming up. Give us a moment to load. Principal Sanchez, just cue me and I will scroll through.
Please, next slide. Thank you. My name is Frank Sanchez. This is my third year coming up as principal of Columbia High School. And it's interesting, we've actually have been using the earlier iteration of the SKY program here with climate and culture for a few years with our climate and culture team led by Ms. Thomas and Mr. Barkowski. So we have some familiarity with it. And we've been really focused lately on health and safety with our COVID protocols. And now we are looking forward to shifting our building goal this year, specifically on safety and security, right? So as that same bucket that we did with COVID, now we're focusing on building security. So just as Dr. Gilbert mentioned earlier, you can look at our SKY results, and you can see that parents, out of a scale of 1 through 4, parents at basically almost a 3 feel and agree that Columbia High School is very safe. But you know, as much as we appreciate that, parents, we love your feedback. We really want to look at students and staff because they are here every day in the building. As you can see, students first feel comfortable, 2.82, which means that they agree. But our staff was low at 2.37, and I bring that out because that's why specifically we are making safety and security one of our building goals as part of the Middle States accreditation process. So every 5 years, we have to begin this accreditation process again, and we pick a few goals that we really will tackle delve into, and not just building leadership, but with student and staff ownership. And so that's why we picked this as one of our middle state goals. As a building or as an instructional leader, one of the most important things to do is to hire great staff members, and we have that here at Columbia. But one of the things I always ask myself when we're about to hire someone, I know it's kind of personal, but I think, hey, would I want one of my daughters to be in that class? Would I want one of my daughters to be in that sports program or extracurricular activity? And the same goes with security. Would I want my child to be at Columbia High School and feel safe? And I could say without a question that my personal answer is absolutely. And there are reasons for that. We have a great staff. We have great administrators. Our security staff has only gotten stronger in the past 2 years. And now we thank the Board of Education, Dr. Taylor, and Central Office for bringing us a specific position, a security position with Mr. Valles. And here's the great thing, it's only going to get better for next year. So let me just go over a couple of the revamped security protocols that we will have. We will be holding monthly security meetings above the state mandated just twice a year here at Columbia. So we'll have monthly meetings. We are also going to have a closed campus for our freshmen. Later, when we talk about fights, we'll break out some of the data to illustrate why we think it's important for our freshmen to be in the building this year. We also will have a new ID card policy for our students as they come in every day, and for those upperclassmen who leave and return for lunch. Just so we'll be handing out our student handbook later this week. And in there, it will explain the ID card policy. All students have, returning students from Columbia have their cards from last year, but we will be giving brand new cards and lanyards for all students on the first day of school during second period. And they will be expected to wear those ID cards because it's very important for our students to be using the ID cards to come in for attendance purposes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the day, as well as for lunch. Let's see. We also have continued technology enhancements. I can't, like for example, with our Columbia High School doors, as I mentioned earlier, we have great security that specifically has rounds that they must complete every 10 to 20 minutes. As they do that, they check doors. However, what we were missing until this year is real-time information if a door is propped open or opened. Those technology enhancements were completed over the summer. We thank Mr. Bonds and his team, which will allow now, if a door is open or propped open, that door will turn red and allow security to immediately pinpoint and even rewind video to see who is opening the door. So that's really important information. Other things, we can't really always share everything, but when you see where it says phase 2 for Alertus, just know that phase 1 was completed at the end of last year, which is technology for in case, heaven forbid, we have a shooter in the premises. And then we're also very soon, not very soon, but by the end of this year, have swipe access points as well for students in bathrooms and other locations. So you can see we really thank our board, our superintendent, central office for making these budgetary investments at the high school. And then, of course, really it's about relationships. And so as much as we value our relationships with our students, we of course value our relationships with our community partners, including the Maplewood and South Orange police departments. We know at the end of the day, we're not here to jam any student up, but more importantly, to work together to make sure students make the right decisions and good choices. And so we really are fortunate to have police departments that share that philosophy, and we have great relationships with both police departments. So that's what, Dr. Taylor, I just wanted to point out, just a little bit of information. And of course, we'll get to more when we do the questions, sir.
Thank you so much, Principal Sanchez. And just for those who may not have watched some of the board meetings, when we were presenting and reviewing the work of NJ Ski that we did with Rutgers, as Dr. Gilbert shared, this information is available under our Access and Equity tab on our website. And again, we had 3 different levels of surveys for students, staff, and parents, and all 3 of our secondary schools participated, and they have goals that are built upon that first iteration. We will now move to our Director of School and Community Safety, Mr. Valles.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm a graduate of Columbia High School, actually attended high school with Chief DeVaul, which is very interesting. One of my mentors and good friends, Chief of Livingston Police, Gary Marshutz, happens to have a great relationship with Chief Morillo. So to me, it was a very smooth transition coming here. I hold a bachelor's degree in English from Kean University, a master's from Seton Hall University. I worked for the Essex County Prosecutor's Office as an investigator, Livingston Police Department, New Jersey Transit Police. Most recently, I was the Director of Public Safety and Emergency Management at St. Michael's College in Vermont. I'm happy to be home, and I'm happy to be within the school district where I spent my formative years. Next slide, please, sir. So what's very, very important is compliance when it comes to school safety and security. So there's a school security drill law, and 2 important requirements are within this law. Schools must provide written notification to the parent or guardian of a student enrolled in the district following completion of a school security drill. And we do this for 2 reasons. One, to make the student secure, and another to make the parent secure. We feel that transparency is important. Schools drills must ensure that school districts must ensure that school security drills include clear, developmentally and age-appropriate messages to students and staff. I've had conversations with Dr. Gilbert about this already as he's hit the ground running coming here. It's important that we give them the guidance that they need and that we support all of our students. Next slide. According to the statute, we have 8 requirements. So we have to announce that a drill is being made. We connect with the local police departments, our law enforcement partners, and we let them know that a drill is going to happen. Drills are required, and we don't want to expose our students to content or images that are inappropriate. We want it to be age appropriate. All drills are age appropriate. I'm going to skip further down. Written notification, we covered that. And the law requires a school district shall review and update its school security drill procedures. And lastly, the law requires a school district to annually track data on such measures and informations that are required by the Commissioner of the Department of Education. So what's important here in these last 2 slides is compliance. As a school security specialist, I'm here to ensure that our district stays in compliance, and Dr. Taylor has been a strong supporter of that, pushing me with professional development. Even though I've just gotten here, I've received so much training. In fact, I was at the academy today learning. So why do we drill? What is the purpose of a drill? They prepare our students and staff in the event of emergency. Practice is very, very important. They familiarize our students and staff with emergency protocols. So we want our students to know where to go and when to go and how to get there. They provide knowledge to help them make decisions quickly in their stressful situations. And that's a key point with practice. One of my favorite parts of drilling really is they may help reduce anxiety, panic, and confusion and help people remain calm. We should not over drill. We should drill to the state standards, of course, but when we drill, we should take our drills seriously. So that way, if there's ever an emergency, our students will not panic and they will remain calm. They provide our emergency responders the opportunity to familiarize themselves with the buildings. This is huge. This is very, very important that our partners in law enforcement, both Maplewood and South Orange PD, are familiar with our buildings. And Chief DeVaul will probably share a little bit about that process with what Maplewood has done recently. And lastly, and most importantly, drills can save lives. So we don't drill for no reason. We drill for reasons that can help our students. We don't want to distract our learners, but we have to comply to state mandates. Next slide, please, sir. Did we? Oh. Okay. So type of school drills that we do. So within the first 10 calendar days, we must do a fire drill. So expect that. Our students can expect that. And then within the first 15 days, we have to do a school security drill. So our students should expect that. Our staff and faculty should expect that. Schools are required to hold a minimum 2 of the following drills: 2 per year of active shooter, 2 per year bomb threat, 2 lockdowns, and 2 non-fire evacuations per year. So we have some examples of security drills that we can consider: shelter in place, reverse evacuation, evacuation to a relocation site, testing of schools' emergency notification system and procedures, testing of schools' communication system, tabletop exercise, and full-scale exercise. Recently, I was fortunate to be a part of a tabletop exercise with our police chiefs. And Maplewood Police Chief sent 2 designees, 2 or 3 designees rather, and Chief Morillo participated in this tabletop with Maplewood Middle. And I thought it went very well. I thought it went very well. Next slide, please. So there was an annual school safety audit, NJS 18A-41:41-14. So each school building has to have a security assessment done. Not only that, but each school building has to have its own separate emergency action plan or emergency operation plan, EOP, separate from the school districts. But the school districts is the boilerplate for those aforementioned plans. One new update is Carrie's law, and that requires essentially no prefix when one dials 911. And what's interesting about Carrie's law is that she passed away in front of her daughter, essentially, in a hotel room. Her daughter saw her mother being attacked in a hotel. 4 times she tried to dial 911 via that hotel phone. She was unable to because a 9 prefix needed to be dialed before dialing 911. So now this federal law, which we are in full compliance to, our phones do not require prefixes. So I want to thank IT for quickly adjusting to that law. Alyssa's law, A76-4, requires us to have a panic alarm, or panic buttons, or an alternative means of notifying law enforcement in the event of emergency. Every school in our district is compliant to that. Every building in our district is compliant to that. So that's very, very important that we're compliant to these federal laws. And I'd like to thank our IT team because they do a lot behind the scenes to not only keep us in compliance, but also keep us safe. And lastly, I want to share a quote with you from Nelson Mandela. Safety and security don't just happen. They are the result of collective consensus and public investment. We owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in our society, a life free of violence and fear. And really, it takes a village, literally. South Orange Village, Maplewood Village, it takes that. It takes a team effort. And you see a great team with collaboration from our police chiefs to our school administrators to our IT team, and also to you, members of the community, who care about what's going on within our community.
Thank you, Director Valles. Before we move on to our Q&A portion, I just want to echo the sentiments that were just shared regarding our compliance with the initiatives and the guidelines and state law that we receive updates on every year. And we do so as thoughtfully as we can. And I also want to just acknowledge that I know that Director Valles shared that he is a decorated police officer, decades of work in law enforcement, but he also was a school teacher. He taught, in the public school system as well, and was also the lead of a police department for a small college. So he has a wealth of experience and has a great lens to support us with this really important topic. We will now shift to Q&A with Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. And you can go to the next slide. Before we begin going through the Q&A, we kind of wanted to give you the data on the submission of questions. We had 50 questions that were sent to us, and they were put into various categories. As you can see on the screen here, the ones in black are the ones that we're going to answer on this program today. The ones in red are questions that we are going to move to the appropriate body to answer that aren't quite relevant to what our program today, but they will be addressed and they will be answered by the appropriate group. And so you can see that we had 5 questions around CHS building related safety, 4 around school culture and climate, 10 on the school drills and security, 7 around special education, 1 with sexual assault, and 1 on construction safety. And then we had 3 about technology, 1 other, and we had 18 on bus and transportation. Next slide. So in terms of Columbia High School, there were many questions that were related to building and building safety. And so like number 1 dealt with Columbia High School safety related to entry or exit doors and unauthorized guests. Go to the next slide as well. And then how does the district plan to ensure safety at sporting events held in the Underhill Field? So I went to those 2 slides, and I'm going to turn it over now to Principal Sanchez, who is going to answer the many questions that he received in both of those areas. Principal Sanchez?
Sure. So we had several questions about our entry and exit doors with unauthorized and about unauthorized guests. So as our esteemed assistant principal, Mr. Willard, will say, we have 64 doors at Columbia High School. Columbia High School is a huge building. It's a beautiful building, but it also has many entry points. So as I mentioned, to make it more safe, what we are going to do is allow students to enter the building in 4 different places, 4. That's based on last year's COVID numbers where we thought better than just having the main entrance. So we will give you that information again in the student handbook, and we are going to be sending that information to freshman parents later this week. But just so people understand, it's the main entrance. For our seniors, freshmen will be coming in through the cafeteria. In addition, sophomores and juniors will come in through the main gym door. And then the academy door is open in the morning only, and that's for our bus students and students who kind of are walking in that direction. So I bring this up because although we gave out student IDs last year, we didn't require students to be wearing them until this year, because now we actually have reason to. We will have, and thanks to our technology department, a new partner in Swipe It. It's a technology company that works with our Power School that will allow very quick signing in. So there won't be a bottleneck of students who would be entering or waiting just to sign in every morning and swipe in. We will have the majority of those in our main lobby, again, because we know that's the main entrance for our students, but also have them in the other points that I mentioned. And what I think is really nice is that we'll be able to move the academy swipe after the beginning of the day, after 7:55, into the library, and then it can be used there by our students who need to get access to books or other information. So again, that's how we are going to have students come in. There were questions, for example, how will you know if a student is a Columbia High School student and be coming in? That's how we'll know. Students will have their ID card, and they will have to swipe in when they come in the morning as well as during lunch. For the past few years, we have not had grade level meetings to start school and assemblies, again, with fear of COVID. We will have that in the beginning of this year to ensure that our students are familiar with these new protocols. It's very important. There was a question also, what happens if a student opens a door and props a door open? As I mentioned earlier, we will now be able to have in real time the ability to find out who is opening a door. That will really help us in curbing that issue. So we believe in restorative justice here at Columbia, and of course across the district. So we will have the consequences spelled out for our students, and we will be telling them about it. Of course, we'll be starting with warnings. We might ask students then in a restorative manner to repair that harm. Perhaps work on creating bulletins and information about school safety. But then, of course, we can get to detentions and loss of privileges, like, for example, loss of lunch privilege or open campus. But we will treat this very seriously, and students will understand that there is that change. So there was a question, too, about unauthorized students coming in. In the few cases that happened last year, I just want to point out first and foremost, in the cases where it was 2 former students, and in the one case where it was 2 students from a neighboring high school, in those 3 cases, we knew when it happened in real time because 2 reasons. A, our students told us, and we were able to rectify the situation. Or B, our security guards who know our students so well were able to let us know. So I want to say that we already have that strong foundation of knowing who's supposed to be in the building and students having that relationship to come to us with that information. Unfortunately, in those cases where a student who was a former student, or the case where 2 students from a nearby school came in, we did press charges for trespassing. We will talk to our students and let them know that is that is what happens if that is the case. Regarding Underhill, can I just say that today we had our inaugural event on the turf this evening. We had our girls soccer team playing there today, so it was great to see. I can say that we have definitely have technology upgrades in regards to Underhill as well as fencing. Dr. Taylor, I'm not sure if there's something to share in addition to that we can share.
Sure. I can share a little bit more. Thank you, Principal Sanchez. And before we shift to Underhill, just to reiterate Principal Sanchez's points, because they're really important. Allowing someone who does not attend Columbia High School or any of our schools to enter that school is about the most dangerous thing a person could do in our school district, and we take it extremely seriously. I participate in those conversations with those students who make that grave error and help them to understand, along with the CHS team, just how important and devastating that decision is. And also for Underhill, we've had several upgrades. The folks who live close to that area have probably witnessed a lot of serious physical work that has happened in that space. Again, not to be very specific because we always are aware, of security protocols, but we can share with you that we've had serious increases in our cameras and in what our cameras can see. And if you live near or have driven by Underhill recently, you've also seen increased fences and barriers, and we have personnel there. And so all of those pieces, along with things that we can't talk about, are really important and I hope that it reflects to those who are watching that we take the safety of our students very seriously. And even when Underhill's used for games pretty soon, we also will continue to have our police partners there to support us to make sure that, again, everyone is safe during those night games when we're having a great time cheering on our teams. I want to go to the next slide now.
Thank you, Principal Sanchez and Dr. Taylor. Principal Sanchez, this one is for you as well. CHS Climate and Culture. How is administration addressing student altercations to ensure a better culture and safer environment for students and staff?
Sure. So last year we understood this was a national epidemic where we did have more bullying instances across the country and student altercations across the country coming out of post-COVID, right? Students not being able to express themselves positively or in a non-physical manner. But that wasn't an excuse for us. What we wanted to do right away was to look at data, and we started to collect data about any of the altercations that we had. And so just give you just a quick example. We looked at grade level of the students. Nearly 80% of altercations involved a freshman. When was a fight or an altercation? When did it occur? 50% of them occurred at lunch or period 9, which sometimes are conference period. Where? Many happened during lunch and off grounds. And who was involved, right? And that was important for us to see if there was any students who repeated in altercations or who may not have been fighting, but may have been involved in a tangential way. We also found that, for example, some students who may have had IEPs, when we looked at that and we talked about this data with our administrators, we thanked our central office as well as our special education administrator who said, it looks like maybe we could have some of our students with IEPs gain by having behavioral counseling as well as academic counseling. So we made those changes throughout the year by looking at this type of data. We also added programming. Dr. Taylor brought in challenge days. And what I mentioned before, the importance of who, was we were able to really use some of this data to really target, to look at some students who we thought could really benefit from this. We increased our programming with the Loft. And they also were able to add counseling with some of the students who may have repeated in this type of behavior. So to answer the question about how we're going to address student altercations is that we're going to continue to look at data as fights occur, but also make the changes and the example I can definitely give, because we saw so many freshmen having issues, especially during lunch, we are going to have our freshmen to have lunch, this year's freshmen, in the building. And this way we can closely monitor, help them with programming. And that's more in line with the majority of communities surrounding us and across New Jersey, where really sometimes only juniors or maybe just seniors have open campus privileges. So we're gonna do that. And we're also going to make climate and culture as, you know, our premier goals for middle states. And so what we will also see is talking about making the classroom and the curriculum as relevant and authentic as possible for our students. So those are the things that we're going to continue doing.
Thank you, Principal Sanchez. Our next set of questions will deal around school drills, security, and others. And Dr. Taylor, you're going to have this one. It says a position call for the safety director was pushing beyond just drills and to consider the safety of students in terms of climate, to make sure students feel welcome, to center interventions that are collaborative and restorative, and to evaluate the impact of policies. What are your plans to make all of this happen?
It's a great question. I think it connects to the previous slides that we shared around our work with NJ Ski through Rutgers University. I hope that you've seen, you know, so far, our choice for director is a well-rounded person, and he's very talented. And even through our summer programming, he's been seen hanging out at, you know, with some of the kids who are in our summer programming, because that's also a part of our kids feeling welcomed, that he is not the district-wide person who's responsible for discipline, right? He's here to make us all safe. And here are some examples. I know the Principal Sanchez just finished talking about students who were having behavioral challenges last year, and some of the things that we've done in our planning using data for those students who've had those behavioral challenges. But we also know that we, as the adults who are in charge of the space, the teachers, the principals, the support staff, the administration, all of us, that part of us having a restorative approach is also investing in professional development that grows us, right? And so we shared many times last year through the suspension moratorium that we had invested in restorative practices, professional development for all of our principals, and not just a one-shot deal, but a customized approach depending on their previous professional experience. We also have already released a continuing professional development for our staff members for social emotional learning. Dr. Gilbert shared about our cultural responsive, learning support that we're going to be giving folks, and that's also a part of our professional development. And also part of the work that we're doing around culture and climate, again, is really focusing in on a welcoming and affirming space. And how do you develop that? Even though we have veteran teachers who do that in their sleep, we want to make sure that we all have the same toolbox to pull from.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. The next couple of questions, Dr. Taylor, I'm going to get you and Mr. Valles to kind of tag team, and you guys can figure out who wants to start off or whatever. But the next question is, what evidence shows that code red drills that require students to hide are doing more benefit than harm? Would the district consider moving to discussions-based training with students? And then the next question says, students are dealing with a lot of the pandemic, mental health stress, and code red drills may exacerbate. Have you all given any more thought to using tabletop drills, especially for younger kids? Dr. Taylor, you want to start, and then we throw it to Mr. Valles?
Definitely. I think that, one thing that Mr. Valles has already shared in this presentation is that we have compliance pieces that are, non-negotiable for us as a school district. One thing that occurred before our new director joined us is that we adopted a lot of the new things that the state made mandatory prior to the governor's executive order. A lot of that work around saying that a drill is a drill in plain language, right? This is a drill. That was something that we initiated prior to it being required. Notifying families that a drill occurred that day, again, was something that we began prior to that being mandated. And also working with our police partners to ensure that our drills are relevant, right, and are done with best practices, but they are a requirement. And Director Valles also shared that just this summer we did use a tabletop approach, and that wasn't the first time. We've used those in the past, right? And so we work with our principals to develop and to initiate and to comply, but we also are thoughtful in doing so. But it's just so important that our kids and our teachers and our administrators know secondhand what to do in case of an emergency. So we are being thoughtful about it, and I think that we've shared some examples of how we have been.
And I agree there. It's important to be in compliance, and drills have to be done compassionately, right? People aren't running up and down the halls screaming and pulling on doors to put students in a state of shock. That's not our intent, right? Our intent is to help them be safe in the event of emergency. As far as a tabletops are really for administrative key personnel to assess plans and look at policies and procedures, look at our strengths and our weaknesses, and change that. And that's not a dialogue that we could really openly have with our students. And that's the reason. But I do understand we have great educators at Columbia and South Orange and Maplewood Middle and throughout our whole school district. But teachers have to teach certain lessons and have certain guidelines that they have to follow. And classroom instruction time is very, very important too. So they can take a few minutes early in the year to talk about some safety and procedure policies to help keep our students safe. And if the state mandates change more to more discussion based, we absolutely will be fully on board with that. At the end of the day, it's really all about our students. And these are really good questions.
Can I just add very quickly, Dr. Taylor and team? And I know, for example, we've had these discussions with other principals and with Dr. Taylor. Right after Uvalde, many of us had planned for a fire drill, like the next day. It was already scheduled, right? And so we were clearly very sensitive to that and made sure not to have that fire drill that next day. In fact, when we had that next drill, we even emphasized how it was going to be a drill, as we may have thought some of our students had more heightened feelings at that moment. We also know that, across the state, they would like us sometimes to consider calling it active shooter drills. We call it Code Red instead. And I will say that the feedback from the new Alertus system that you mentioned earlier, that is now in the buildings that says this is a Code Red, is definitely has a different tone than the previous one. And students have given us the feedback that it's more comfortable than what it was when it was Code Red. So those are things that we always consider, when having that, because we understand the sensitivity of our students who are living, unfortunately, in this time of school shootings.
Thank you, gentlemen. This next question, Mr. Valles, is going to go to you. It says, does the district have any plans to implement a threat identification and assessment program? Evertown for Gun Safety states that threat assessment teams are unanimously recommended by school safety experts, including the Federal Department of Homeland Security, Department of Education, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Given the remarkable efficacy of such a program, can the district take steps to put one in place?
Absolutely. On August 4th, 2022, our governor signed A 4047/3229. And that essentially stated that all schools in New Jersey will have a threat assessment team. That team will consist of a teacher, a school resource officer, a school safety specialist, counselor, school psychologist, school administrator. And so we will have that in place. And we essentially have a lot of that in place. but the law doesn't take effect until next year. It doesn't take effect until next year, but we have a good skeleton in place. I had a meeting recently with Principal Sanchez, Detective Jamodi of Maplewood Police Department, and a few other school administrators, and we talked about that topic, essentially about that topic, about harm reduction, about helping students first. So before that student becomes a concern, we assist that student, right? So it could be an incident where a student draws something in art class that looks as if they're going to act out on that type of drawing. Then we would connect with that art teacher and connect with that counselor and connect with that parent to intervene, to help and assist the student. So we have a pretty good skeleton of a threat assessment team, and I think that ours will be in compliance before next year. It's not supposed to be ready until September of next year, 23-24, but I think we'll be ready. Incidentally, as soon as this law was signed, Principal Sanchez spoke to me, I think the next day or the day that it was signed, and Dr. Taylor, within 18 business days, had me in threat assessment team training, and I already finished that training. So that's how proactive we are. And I said we need a teacher, an SRO, school safety specialist. I would like all those members on my team, but thanks to our board of ed, I'm all three right now, right? I became a certified schools safety specialist right when I got employed. I was an SRO before. I just finished SRO refresher training. And like Dr. Taylor mentioned previously, I was a school teacher in the past. So I'm looking forward to working with our threat assessment team and having members of the South Orange Maplewood Police Department join us. And I think we'll have it up and running well before the next year's deadline. Like I said, we already have a skeleton that we're dealing with now, a working boilerplate, I would say.
Thank you, Mr. Valles. The next two questions, Dr. Taylor, I'm going to give these to you. One says, I would like some more transparency about security and safety measures for our children, protecting them from school shootings. How are you guys prepared to handle issues like school shootings?
Wow.
Well, I hope that our previous answers have given an adequate response to this, right? I mean, this is the thing that, of course, keeps us all up at night, trying to be preventative. And that was one of the things I think that our director spoke about a few times, is using our expertise to predict challenges and prevent challenges, and definitely to prevent and predict tragedies. And I think that what we shared with some of the updates, both the physical updates, meaning our facilities, as well as the training that we have been doing and will continue to do, and the support mechanisms that we're putting in place for our young people, will all serve to work together to prevent what we know is the unthinkable. But we have to think about it as part of our charges. So again, I hope that information that we've shared has helped to answer this question.
Thank you, Doc. Well, go ahead, Mr. Valles. Go ahead.
Oh, and if we go back to that, and it takes a village, really, it's layers of security, right? We have the layers that we're forming. We have a security team. We have proactive principals. We have educators that really care about your students. We have, see something, say something. And that's what's really going to be. It's going to be more of the human element with the threat assessment teams, with us communicating with our outside partners, with the layers of security. When we think about the IDs, that's a layer. We think about the doors, that's another layer. When we think about, upping our security at Underhill, that's another layer. Recently, Dr. Taylor approved for more coverage at Underhill during the evening hours via email. He gets so many emails. I don't know if he remembers responding to that, but he responded quickly and right away, unanimously, This is what I want. And I believe I looped in our police chiefs in that conversation. So at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, and we're going to need each other. We're going to need our attendees and especially our students. Earlier in the conversation, Chief Duvall mentioned, not today, but I had a conversation with him earlier, and he said, our students are important in helping keeping our schools safe. And Chief Duvall, that was so profound when you said that, because I asked about student accountability, and you asked about students' importance as well as accountability. So it's both. And you said students find out things about safety from each other. Hey, that window should be open, that door should be open. So, those force multipliers, those layers of security, really, really make a lot of sense, Chief. And I appreciate that earlier conversation that I had with you on that. And Chief Morillo, called me this weekend. We had a brief conversation about professional development and training that he would like me to get involved in that will help benefit our students to keep us safe as well. And, it's really a team effort. And you can get all the technology in the world, all the radios, all the cameras in the world, but it's that human element. And that's what we're going to push together as a community to help each other stay safe.
Dr. Taylor, I would like to add a couple of things, if that's okay. First,
Please, yeah, please do, please do.
First, I would like to talk to the panel as a group and all the attendees. I've never seen such collaboration, and the addition of Mr. Valles has just been wonderful. It's exactly what we've been looking for. The collaboration, it's going to pay off more than anybody can know. So we'll begin with this summer, we did building familiarizations in our town. I can't tell you how critical that is for our officers to know the buildings, have some idea. Where we don't regularly go into the buildings, it's a benefit for all of us. So I want to thank Dr. Taylor for that. And to get to what Stanley was mentioning, I made a couple of notes over here thinking about the drills. The first thing is exactly what he said. We have to empower our staff and our students to be a part of the process. It's very important. The drills can't be viewed as a negative experience. It has to be a positive experience. We have been working with the district. They have their mandates, and the mandates are what they are. But we have been working collaboratively to figure out ways to reduce stress, to improve efficiency, and reduce the time. And remember, the better staff are familiarized with the drilling and take it seriously, they are going to be the critical part of reducing stress, improving efficiency, and reducing the time it takes. Staff is a critical component in this. Whenever there's a drill, the students, whoever is in their classroom, is looking to them for guidance. So not only are we looking to do tabletops, which are required, we're looking to do, and I've offered this to Dr. Taylor already, we're looking to do training with the staff, right? Because we want, whenever we have these trainings, they have to be effective. They have to benefit everybody, and they have to benefit the students. So we are working with them so that way these drills are not just something that's done in paper, but that actually could be helpful and a beneficial to the student body. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Now to you, Dr. Gilbert.
Thank you. And so, as I said earlier, we had a host of questions that pertain to special education students and our special services. And just know that those questions are going to be forwarded over to our Assistant Superintendent of Special Student Services, Ms. Susie Boudin. And just know that myself and Mr. Valles will be working along with her to make sure that we address all of those questions in a timely manner. I can say this, that since Mr. Valles has been in our district, anytime we've had a conversation about safety and security, he's always pointed us to making sure that special education was covered. And so we take those questions seriously, and we will make sure the responses get put in either FAQ or something so that you all can see those. And so,
Hey,
go
Dr.
ahead.
Gilbert,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to share that we'll also make sure that CPAC gets those answers, the special education parent group, so that they can also be aware. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. This next question, we're going to start out with Principal Sanchez to answer, and then I may come in with some since I am also the Title IX coordinator. So it says, I've read that students are complaining about the lack of resources and action steps from the school district on the rise in sexual assault, rape, and harassment among the high school students. Teachers are complaining that they aren't adequately equipped to help, such as knowing where to officially report a case to the school or how to access counseling on the website. I found numerous resources on the district site for national hotlines and non-school-based support, but nothing about school-based options. What actions are being taken to address these issues? Any teacher training, student workshops on prevention, and what to do if they have been assaulted? Mr. Sanchez?
Sure. In March of 2021, so just a year and a half ago, we had some students who expressed anxiety or discussion on sexual assault issues at Columbia or throughout their experience through the school district. But unfortunately, they were anonymous or they were adjacent, like I heard my friend had this happen to. When that happened, we quickly convened faculty and many faculty members, as someone suggested, said, you know, I wouldn't know on how to counsel a student, but we did provide teachers with the actual way of providing counselors to those students, right? We want students to know immediately where to go. So we could say that in our handbook, it is very clear who to address any sexual assault Title IX issues. There's a flow chart that will go and show students not only who to go to, but then how long the process is and what are the steps within the process. In addition to that, after this incident in March, last year, and I will just remind people that we weren't even in the school yet, right? We didn't come back to school in April of that year. Our Board of Education, with the leadership of Dr. Taylor, created a ad hoc committee, specific task force to tackle this. I was part of the curriculum task force where we researched different resources, and we've come back and we thank the board and Dr. Taylor for putting in the budget a brand new, well, two positions, a brand new supervisor for health and PE that will allow for much of this curriculum to be not just talked about where we do it, but to be institutionalized in our curriculum at certain grade levels. In addition to that, we are also looking to augment your office with an investigator as well. But some of the things that we've done specifically at Columbia High School, last year, we thought it was very important before our students went out to college, that they had safety protocols. We brought in, thanks to the support of the Loft and the Municipal Alliance, who funded a talk with Katie Costner. If you recall, she was the victim in 1990 of date rape. And that really gained the word, was coined, really changing the way sexual assault is handled on college campuses, but now at high schools as well. So we'll be working with Katie again this year, bringing in other speakers as well for different grade levels. So I can say that in the new handbook, you will see that there is the actual flow chart. We also have been bringing in professional development regards to this, and we also have made strides in new supervisors for it as well. I've been personally trained in Title IX investigations on the building level, so that those PD and professional development for those who will be conducting the investigations have been fulfilled by the district, and we thank them for their support.
And I will only add, as the district Title IX coordinator, if you go to our website, if someone is wanting to figure out who to report, how to report, or what the situation is, I'm listed as the Title IX coordinator. If you just go to your website and either send me an email or give me a phone call, I can definitely lead you in the right direction. And let me also say that for the past 2 years, we have been contracted with a group called ICS, who has been providing professional development virtually for all of our staff around Title IX. And this year, we've added a student component. So all of our students will get a quick training around Title IX and what it means, and the ramifications of not abiding by what Title IX is as well too. So between our investigative teams that's together in our district, between our website, and between some of these trainings we have, we hope that we will do an admirable job in making sure that sexual assault is handled as expeditiously as possible, and our Title IX structures are in place. Dr. Taylor, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just add that, part of our work with our suspension moratorium task force was feedback from the students who were a part of that they shared, that while resources were on our website, that most of our students don't go on our websites, right? That students, they do other things, and one thing that they do every day is Canvas. And so that was part of the discussion that led to us adding a subscription for ICS for our students so that they could get direct information on this really important topic. And I thank Principal Sanchez and Dr. Gilbert for their work on this really important topic.
Thank you. Our final question for the evening deals with construction safety. And I'm going to toss this over to Dr. Taylor, and then our chiefs will probably add some insight into it. But it says that I'm very concerned that construction at Tuscan is behind schedule, and the teachers and staff will have very little time back in the building to prepare their classrooms, workspaces. From what I've seen from the outside, there are areas that look unsafe for people to be around, let alone children running around during recess. What is being done to ensure that the buildings, not just Tuscan, but all elementary schools undergoing construction, will be safe for everyone to enter? The outdoor areas will be safe for children to enjoy recess. Dr. Taylor?
Thank you for that. We've spent all of our summer, Mr. Burnside, our school business administrator, and Epic Construction, which is our contracted construction manager, who's a third party that works for us and helps us manage our general contractors who are doing this great construction that the community has afforded for us. And we are really on top of this. We're really on top of the timing of it. We have prepared for our principals an update to give each of their school communities regarding where their projects are. We're on time to be able to open schools as we had planned to do so on our calendars. And of course, as we shift to the fall and having school versus the summer and getting work done, there'll be a change in what you see outside those buildings. We have a deadline for each of our projects for all of our contractors to be done with their work, their summer work. Work will still continue throughout the school year as it did last year, right? But that work is different than our summer work. Summer work is designed to happen when no one is present. If you didn't know, the schools have been vacated for the entire summer. Even the administrators and the clerical folks have been relocated just to make sure that they were safe. And work has to happen that cannot occur while folks are present during the summers. And so that work is very close to being done. We, of course, no construction is perfect, but we'll have updates for everyone. And we're very confident that we'll be able to open school and have safe spaces in and of course around our schools for our kids when they come back in the next week or so. And we've also, of course, kept our police partners abreast about this, and I'm sure that they have a couple of things that they would like to share. Whoever would like to go first, please do.
So I'd like to just say that collaboration was the key to this as well. Dr. Taylor and I spoke about this as recently as last week. So between the police department and the township, empowering the principals as well, so they have an avenue to let us know any safety hazards they have. We have the ability to assist the district. Of course, the district can reach out to the construction companies. We'll have the ability to work together on this, and we'll be able to assist, identify, to keep personnel and people who are at the sites to point out these concerns. And I think it's just another great opportunity to collaborate. And I'm just going to continue to ask the district to speak with their parents and communicate with their principals, so that way we get their concerns, so that way we can have them addressed as quickly as possible. Just another way that we're collaborating together.
That's pretty obvious. Sometimes what we need to do is to continue communication in any of the schools that are having issues or construction taking place at the schools that may cause some issues. I know in South Orange at the South Mountain School, there were some issues with parking that we were dealing with the previous year, and it's just a constant addressing of these situations, so that because it can be a moving target, so we have to stay on top of it, keep our communication lines open, see how we can work towards not inconveniencing our teachers, our faculty, while at the same time not inconveniencing the residents that live around the school. Everyone knows near a school, you're going to have a lot of activity, you're going to have a lot of school buses coming in, a lot of parents dropping children off. So it becomes very important when we have different types of activities, such as construction, that is going to disturb what everyone is used to, that we are constantly addressing those things and seeing how we can work towards creating a better environment for everyone that's involved, without creating any type of situations that is going to inconvenience anyone for any extended period of time, at least. When dealing with construction, if anyone has ever had a contractor do some work in their house, plan versus actual, it can be two very different things. So we're just, as long as we continue to be engaged and deal with these issues as they come, and not forget about them, and not forget about the people that are being impacted by them, I think that we can reach a happy solution towards the end of these projects.
Thank you to both chiefs, and I want to acknowledge both police departments, because this time last year, the principals in our offices were working really hard together to try and establish a protocol to have outdoor lunch. Outdoor lunch had never been done at some of our school sites. So that meant that some of our teachers couldn't park in our parking lots because they were being used for outdoor lunch. And both police departments were just outstanding in allowing us to have parking passes and being able to just manage that circumstance for the best interest of our kids. So thank you both. And going to the next slide here, of course, is a big thank you to all of our panelists for giving, of your summer evening for the, greater good of our community. And again, for those who may have joined in the middle or joined a little bit later, this entire recording will be on our YouTube channel for anyone to peruse. And just one last point for us to exit on here. For those who don't know who Captain Scott Kelly is, he's an astronaut, and he had a great quote around safety, that safety has to be everyone's responsibility. Everyone needs to know that they are empowered to speak up if there's an issue. And it's our hope that this evening demonstrated both our investment in and our commitment to the safety of our students and staff. Please know that while we certainly would like to share even more details, we cannot, as they make us more vulnerable to those who would mean us harm. With all of our investments and continuous preparation, we know that our most important contributors to our safety are the people who we're trying to keep safe. We rely on our students and our staff and you, the greater community, to say something when you see or hear something. We need you to share with your school and district leaders when you are aware or even suspect a threat to the safety and security of our schools. We'll leave you with that message. We never get tired of hearing from you when you have concerns around safety and security. Please make sure that you let your school leaders, district leaders, your police department know. We really need to hear from you together. We can continue to keep our schools safe for our students and staff. So thank you, everyone. We're going to stop our program now. And again, thank you to our panelists for just giving up your time and being with us this evening. Have a good day.